Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, the show in which I react to the latest Arsenal news, and in this case, the most wonderful of news. Arsenal, of course, winning 2-0 against Manchester City in the FA Cup. I mean, I'm still in awe, it's fair to say. I'm still not quite over what was an unbelievable display from the boys yesterday. We're going to go into that. We're going to get loads of your comments in the comment section below. I know this is a morning show in the UK or an evening show if you're in the eastern part of the world. And of course, it'll be very late at night if you're in the very western parts of our planet. But I hope you're good. I hope you're well. If you're over in the Americas, I'm hoping you're staying up late, still celebrating. If you're over in Asia and Australasia and the like, and Africa as well, then I hope that you're staying up until this evening to enjoy yourself as well. So, and obviously, if you're in Antarctica, you could be anywhere right now. So, but obviously, I'm hoping there's loads of fans all over the world, absolutely buzzing with what they have just witnessed against Manchester City. I still don't really get it. I don't really understand. Let's get some of your initial reaction. Ashwin Watkins, good afternoon. Good morning, Ashwin. Kitchener says it's 4 a.m. here in Utah, but sleep is overrated when you've beaten Manchester City. TB says good morning. Rodney says we feast. I love that. Owen Young says I've fallen in love with my club again. Regardless of what happens in the final, I'm proud of how we carried ourselves over this past week. Bring on the final. Absolutely, mate. Spot on. Really, really good summary of how we're feeling right now. So obviously what we do on the show usually is we get a load of your thoughts in the comment section below. But seeing as it's been a few hours to sort of relax and digest and sort of look into things, I'm also going to give you some match or player ratings, I should say, which we've never done before. I know loads of other people do it. I'm not saying this is going to be a regular thing. If people like it, maybe it will be. But we're going to look into some player ratings, how I think individuals went. It's a good way of summarizing things and get your thoughts as well. TD Shift says, I'm so proud of the boys. Colin says, Arteta is the one. Don One says the FA should give 2,000 tickets each for the final with social distancing. I want to go. Well, I'm sure you're not the only one. Don One, it's fair to say. TD just says, everyone gets above 9 in player rating tonight. I'm so proud of the boys. I've tried to be as sort of level-headed with some of these as possible and try not to get too carried away, but you're more than entitled to tell me where you think I'm wrong. We'll come on to that in a second. Anonymous T says, Tom, which team do you prefer in the final, Chelsea or Manchester United? I'm not sure. We'll talk about that in a bit, actually. I'll come back to your point on that, Anonymous. That's sort of where I want to sort of round things off. But let's focus on the game initially, and then we'll go into that. So let's go into the player rating. So let's get the elephant out of the room. Let's address that elephant that is in the room currently, which is the lowest score that I've given on the field, and that is to Bellerin. Now, the reason why I've given Bellerin as a 7 is I thought second half, Bellerin was unbelievably good. I thought he was amazing second half. First half, I thought he struggled. I can't forgive a pass from the right-back position across into the middle of the box. There was chances that didn't quite go how we wanted them to, but ultimately he still had a decent game in the second half. It's probably harsh. I'm trying to be as sort of, if anyone, like as a teacher, I'm known as being quite strict, and so I'm being as analytical as possible. I mean, Akede says you can't give him a 7, which I understand. Some people might find that, but it's very, very difficult to sort of break up player ratings. And when you've had such a good performance as a team, to try and find the differences between players when you're only given a scale from 1 to 10. I don't really like doing like 0.5s or whatever. It's very, very difficult to sort of break apart and distinguish between players. But I've tried to do that here, and I'm going to try and justify it. Let's look at some of the 8s. Martinez in goal. Didn't really put a foot wrong, was confident at the back with his passing, and part of that led to, of course, our first goal. It was an amazing save that he made from Mahrez. But actually, our defence was so good that Martinez didn't really have that much to do in the game, which is when you consider how many chances were being created and how many crosses were going in. When you really think about it, Martinez didn't have loads to do, which makes it even more impressive that when he is called upon, he was on his toes and ready and waiting for that Mahrez shot when he finally did manage to get one in. Let's look at the others 8 in our backline, being Mustafi. And obviously he says you forgot to give Arteta a 10. That is a big shout. We will come on to that at the end. Mustafi, for me, I enjoyed his performance. I thought he was defensively solid. I thought his passing was good. There was 2 moments, which is why I haven't given him a 9. The first one is he nearly, very, very, very nearly, and he did at one point, get caught in his own box with the ball. I believe it was Sterling. I might be wrong. I think it was Sterling. And I just thought that moment is just your classic Mustafi. There's also the penalty call. I still look at that penalty call as still very, very fortunate for us. It just felt clumsy. He got the ball in the end. Yes, Sterling probably made a lot of it. But I think in another game, with another referee and other officials at Stockley Park, you would see that given. I'm so buzzing it wasn't, obviously. But I just feel that, he couldn't quite get into the number 9s for that. Matt S says, why no 10s? I'll tell you why there's no 10s. It's a good question, is that I don't like giving 10s. I don't like giving 10s because you can always improve. In my mind, you can always improve. I don't do 0.5s. If I could give players a 0.5, I'll let you know in a second. I just personally can't give 10s because I just always feel that you can get more from someone. You can get more out of a player in a game, and there's always something that you can look at that could be better. And I think that ultimately Arteta probably thinks that way as well. Grass Patch, thank you ever so much for becoming a member. Really genuinely appreciate your support. We've had quite a few members join up recently. They're getting exclusive content. They're going to be getting another bit of content towards the end of the month for the expert members. We've had our expert members podcast as well, which was amazing, having Owen and Mike and TD, Max on the show as well. And it was a really, really great show with the expert members. So if you would like to come on the show at some point in the future and you think you can cut your teeth in podcasting and you've got a really good opinion to say, then help support the channel, get your opinion across and join up as an expert member and get access to exclusive content and very soon some new badges as well, which I'm hoping that StreamYard eventually implements so you can see them actually on the stream, but you can see them in the YouTube app and on PC. So make sure you join up and help us out and support the channel, because there's a lot of big things coming next season. And I'm really genuinely excited to give you more information on that. So, other 8, Danny Ceballos. My God, did Danny Ceballos put in a performance of his lifetime? The amount of tackles that he made, just like putting his foot in, he is one of those that borders onto a 9. I was so close to giving him a 9. The reason why I didn't, and again, this is probably me being really, really picky, but there was a moment in the second half where he just passed it. I was on the right-hand side of the pitch, and I think he passed it straight to Kevin De Bruyne. And in that moment, you just want to be a little bit calmer, keep the ball. But that is the only real thing that I can have a real go at. And as I say, my 9s are basically other people's 10s. So it's Danny Ceballos, 8 for me. Amazing stuff. Brilliant passer. Really good load of tackling in there. Really, really amazing stuff. Xhaka. Number 8, I mean, he was a number 8 kind of today, a number 6 in other senses, and basically playing as a number 4 for most of the game. Xhaka was brilliant, amazing blocks. The reason I've not put him into a 9 is he didn't really get to influence the game like he usually does in terms of the passing, because there just wasn't that in there. But again, in terms of defensive performance, he was up there as a 9. But the other side of the job, just moving forwards, he wasn't really able to sort of influence the game as much, and that's why I've given him an 8. And you have to distinguish that 8 between the 9s. My 8s might be other people's 9s. My 9's probably going to be other people's 10s. So I'm just a very critical person. Owen Young says, God, Tom, you're so negative. Gosh, Hector should have gotten 15. Sorry, I'm being a bit neglected with some of these comments. Afterling Skills says that Ceballos should be a 9. How is Maitland-Niles a 9? Are you serious? Says Afterling. Vinny Eagle says, how you don't say that when it comes to A's and grading your students. We're not talking about that. Nothing to do with grading students goes public. That's private. But I am very critical. I'm a very, 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 very harsh person. So, that's how it is. Matt S says Tierney, Albert, Louise were 10s. Bobby Settin says, without Xhaka, we lose that match. Definitely. I would 100% agree with you there. So let's go into the other 8s. Nicola Pepe on an 8. Amazing performance from him. Obviously set up the goal for Aubameyang, laid the pass back for Tierney to lay through for the second goal. And not only that, but he defensively was so good, tracked back, covered Bellerin where he needed to. I thought the actual combination play between them was really, really good as well. He obviously... There's an argument to say that maybe he should be a 9. I'm sitting here. You know what happens is when you write this stuff out and you're thinking, yeah, I think he's going to be an 8, but he probably wasn't as good as Aubameyang. So I've got to give Aubameyang a 9 because I don't give 10s. So I'm going to say that again. But for me, Pepe was just slightly under what Aubameyang was, and for that reason, and that reason probably alone, I've given him an 8. But he was easily like an 8.9, if you want to give it that. Lacazette with an 8, really, really good performance again from the Frenchman. He did his hold-up play as best you could ever ask him to do. His pass out wide to Bellerin for the first goal was really good, really well aware, but spatially wise, the pass was on point. And he just did a really good job at chasing the back line, forcing City into errors. We nearly created a couple of chances in their box where we forced them back, very similar to what he did against Liverpool. Amazing stuff from the Frenchman. He's really changing my opinion of him, and I'm starting to feel like if we can keep both him and Aubameyang next season and really focus on the finances in the middle of the park and at the back line, I think that you've really got a decent side starting to grow under this Arteta side. Let's go into the 9s then. Starting with the left-back, Kieran Tierney. Amazing pass through to Aubameyang, of course. Really good at backing up Ainsley Maitland-Niles to try and keep Mahrez in their pockets, and they did that really well. There's only one time where Mahrez managed to get a shot away during the game, and to limit that guy, who's an excellent, excellent footballer, the Algerian international, to one shot in the game is absolutely brilliant. So really, genuinely love that. Really, really love that. Let's go through some of your points. Aravin says, hey Tom, I have a problem being a member. I need some help. Can I DM you on Insta? Yeah, you can DM us over on Insta, the Gooner Talk. You should be able to find it over there, or on Twitter. It should be absolutely fine. If you're doing it on iPhone, it usually doesn't work. So you usually have to do it on Android. There's a link in the description of the video if you want to click on that as well. Hopefully that'll help you. But yeah, send me a DM and I'll try and help you, mate. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, I thought he was a 9, and I know that Afterling in the chat said that he was a 6. I don't know if you were joking. I really hope you were, because that's ridiculous. Mainsley just plugged away in a position that isn't his own, and I know that. And this is sort of maybe it's slightly hypocritical of me to say that he was a 9 and other players made mistakes and I put them down to 8s, because of course his deliveries when he got into the left-hand side weren't as good. But defensively, he was amazing. Positionally, he was amazing. He backed up Tierney perfectly. I was watching the match of the day this morning, the highlights, and they were talking about how if Man City were able to get past one red and white shirt, there was another red and white shirt to back them up. And that summed things up perfectly for me, that everyone was just backing each other up, and Ainsley Maitland-Niles was the fulcrum of that idea. He was all over the pitch. Amazing stuff from him. Amazing stuff. Moving then forward to the final 2 9s of the team. First of all, it's the goal scorer, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Amazing performance from him. Took his chances. Obviously, the first chance right at the beginning was a bit, I wasn't so sure if if he was going to get it, and he didn't get it. But the amazing thing about these guys is that these amazing strikers can put aside a missed chance. It doesn't let them affect them. And then when a harder chance comes along, they put it away. And Aubameyang did that amazingly. Really fantastic stuff. Finally, David Louise. Now, David Louise is easily, for me, the closest one that could come to a 10. He was flawless. I know I'm sounding a massive hypocrite by not giving him a 10, but you know me, I don't give tens. So for me, David Luiz was absolutely unreal. He really was just different class in the game, and I can't really fault too much of his performance. I'm trying to think of anything. I really should have probably given him a 10. But, you know, I just feel like I want things to get even better. I want things to get even better. Maybe some of his headers could have not gone to Man City players. I'm being really picky, aren't I? But yeah, that's my sort of utterly harsh criticisms of an amazing performance. Thank you ever so much, everyone that's been tuning in so far. Daniel Costa says 220 watching, please hit the like button. Yes, thank you ever so much everyone that's hitting that like button. Genuinely really appreciate your time, and if you're loving the channel and loving more of it, this isn't the only show that's going to be out today. Of course, the day after the game we always put out a podcast. That is going to be no different today. 8:30 I'm going to be joined by definitely Graham Brooks. I'm finding out about the other guests, but I'm going to leave you into a little secret. And unsurprisingly, our second guest may or may not have rather enjoyed themselves after the game, and meaning that they're in a little bit of a sensitive state today. And you can't blame them for that. But fingers crossed, he's going to be on a little bit later. If not, we will definitely have a full panel anyway, so don't you worry. Let's get some more of your comments about yesterday's game before we go. Thibaut Pesk says, last season we lost out on the C1 via on the Champions League. I'm assuming that is C1. Via the league and the Europa Cup final. This season, we're losing out on Europa via the league, and it all hinges on winning the FA Cup. Progress through regression. It's a weird statement, isn't it? I think that, yeah, things have regressed in terms of like the bigger picture of things. Things have sort of, well, not the bigger picture, but sort of you're looking at sort of in a blinkered manner in a way, actually the complete opposite to a bigger picture. What am I talking about? If you're looking at it in a very blinkered way, you could say that things have gone backwards because we're in a different position than we was last season, been in the Europa League final, a high position in the league. But this season has just been a complete transition. Emery was he was so bad in terms of the relationship with the players, the communicative side of the game he had with the players, and the players just were not buying into what he wanted, and things were going to go so far beyond what we've seen them go down this season. Arteta's come in and he has utterly galvanised this team. Players want to play for him. Players understand what he wants from them. There was an amazing... And to be fair, it's not a fair criticism of Unai Emery to say that obviously he couldn't communicate with the players effectively. He's not an English speaker, and that's not his fault. In a short space of time, you can't learn the language fluently to communicate. He tried his best. He really did. But Arteta fluently speaking both English, Spanish. He was even speaking French. I don't know if people picked up on that to Nicola Pepe. Of course, he spent time playing for PSG. I'm assuming that's where he picked it up. But being able to have a manager that can communicate so clearly with the different players on the pitch is so important. And I think that overall things will start to improve now. Things will start to progress. The ultimate and the biggest question, of course, is will the owners, will the board back Arteta with what he wants, with the players that he needs? What is good, though, and what I pointed out the other day, is that we're seeing Arteta improve players like Mustafi, like Louise, like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like Saka, like Joe Willock looked good when he came in, looked really good. And he's someone that I've been quite critical of since he sort of burst onto the scene. I feel like he needs to give a little bit more, but he's showing some really good signs under Arteta. And if he can do that with these players, just imagine what he could do if he was given the resources to really strengthen this side. I think it would be scary. And I think there's a lot of managers in the Premier League, like Pep, like Klopp, that are looking at this Arsenal side now and thinking, my God, they might be a bit of a team to compete with in a couple of years' time. Fingers crossed that happens. I hope he proves all the doubters wrong. We always talk about the doubters on the show because it genuinely frustrates me how people just can't get behind someone. I understand if you were skeptical about him coming in originally, but to not back him and to use terminology that I've seen on social media is really sad. And I really hope things turn around. I really do. Another one of our members, Owen Young, who's an amazing young writer. Please do go check out his stuff. Speaking of which, you might see him on the channel a little bit more. He doesn't know this, but I'm going to speak to him. He says, Tom, seen something that if Chelsea and United qualify for Europe, we automatically get into Europa regardless of the cup final result. If Chelsea... I don't know about that. Obviously, if Arsenal don't win the FA Cup, it will drop down to 7th place, as far as I'm aware. And the issue, though, with that is that if then Manchester United win the Europa League, I don't know what that does in terms of places because they would then qualify, because you can only have a maximum of 7 teams in European competitions from one nation, from a top tier nation. So I'm not sure. I'd have to have a look into that. Kitchener says, Tierney oozes confidence. I feel he inspires everyone around him. Every time the ball goes to our left, I'm totally calm about it. I love that Scottish golden boy. Perfect future, Arteta captain. Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Vinny Eagle says, delete Twitter simples. It's full of fake accounts and trolls. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But there is some amazing stuff, and I've met some amazing people through social media, so I will not knock it. But things, if you haven't watched Wilfried Zaha's video, it was amazing, talking about social media and how people should be signing up with their identification. I'm 100% on board with that. I think that's the way forward. I think that's how you catch the criminals, and they are criminals in my mind, posting some of the horrible stuff that they do. And I think that is the way forward. Whether that happens, I can't see it happening. I think that would have a huge financial negative effect on those companies. And we've seen time and time again that, unfortunately, companies prioritize finances over what is morally right. But fingers crossed, things will change. Laurie Nick says, Arteta smelling blood, survival skills coming on nicely. Here we go. Omar did ask me the question. Who do you want in the final, Tom? I want Chelsea because I want revenge for Baku. It's a great shout. I'd love to get revenge against Chelsea for that game. They also said Manchester United look really good. I hate saying it. I don't like talking about Man United in a positive way because I can't stand them. But at the end of the day, they are a very, very good side right now. They're the form side in the Premier League. They've got an amazing creative midfielder in Bruno Fernandes. Martial looks fire. Greenwood looks really, really good right now. And Rashford has probably been the worst of those guys, but still has a lot of danger about him. It's going to be a really, really intriguing tie in this game tonight. I'm missing most of it, annoyingly, but I'm going to catch up on it and have a real look in depth. We might even do a show tomorrow talking about who we obviously will have. Of course, the podcast tonight will be straight after that game at 8:30, unless it goes to extra time and pens, but it should be done by then. So we'll have a bit of reaction as to who we will be playing in tonight's show. So set your alarms. Make sure you're tuning in 8:30 UK time tonight. Stonebridge Treadstone says, North London derby loss was the catalyst to our recent performances. United, please. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because, of course, the Brighton performance was kind of a catalyst for that short burst in change of form. We hit a bit of a rock in Leicester, and then we really struggled to break them down. And, of course, having a man sent off really didn't help. You've got to imagine if we had got a win in that game, maybe we could have taken this momentum on further. Spurs, we played really well. We didn't take our chances, and defensively there were errors that we made. Of course, Kolasinac being a big one there, but I still thought we played well in that game. We were really unfortunate to come out with a loss, and now we turned things around afterwards. The game against Liverpool was unbelievably positive. It was so good. Really, really amazing in terms of just the way we pressed, took our chances. And then this Manchester City game, again, people asked Arteta and they said, did you sort of want to play the same way that you played against Liverpool? And I don't think he did, but I think that he understands that you can only really play one way against a side that are just superior to you on the pitch in terms of possession, in terms of quality, in terms of speed and passing and dynamism. And you have to hit them on the break. And we did that to massive credit to the team and to Arteta. We haven't really talked too much about Arteta specifically. People were giving him a rating of a 10. But yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. Kitchener says Chelsea and Man U could do a combined 11, and if we defend like we did today, they shall not pass. I love that. I think that if we've arguably had a harder task, obviously beating Manchester City, which is nice. However, I don't feel like Arteta is going to give this team an opportunity to be a bit arrogant and think, well, we've beaten the best team in the country. I personally feel Manchester City are the best team in the country currently. Across the season, of course, you'd have to say Liverpool, but in terms of squad depth, in terms of what they can do currently and what they still had to fight for and play for, Manchester City are definitely the best in the country right now. UTG just dropped in a small donation. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate your support. John says, do you think Laka should still be sold? We talked a little bit about this earlier during the player ratings, is that if you'd have asked me this 2 weeks ago when he was sort of struggling, I said, if we would get a big bid come in for the Frenchman, I'd be really tempted to take it. But what's really important, and if this is a little bit of advice, and I don't mean it to come across like I know everything about what it's like to do YouTube, because I mean we've been stuck on about 17,000 subscribers for the last year. But the thing is that if what you should be like on social media or on YouTube is that you should be open to your mind being changed. You should be open to what you once thought 2 weeks ago is now something that you no longer think. I know it's very, very difficult to do that sometimes on social media because everything that you write is recorded and written down and saved, and it goes on forever, and people can drag up tweets that you said 3 years ago. But the thing is that you should be open, and it should be okay for you to change your mind on things, and you shouldn't be berated for doing so. And so my just small piece of advice to anyone who wants to do YouTube, anyone who wants to do social media in a big way, you need to be always open to changing your mind. To stay and sit on one side of the fence and never change is not a good way. I've done it in the past, and I know now that it's a mistake to do that. I used to do it with Arsene Wenger. It took a long time before I changed my ways and changed my mind to think about whether he should still be at the club. I remember being on the Gooner Talk when Craig was hosting, and I was an adamant Wenger has to stay, no matter what he does. Think about what he's done for the club. But gradually, as you mature and you evolve and your brain develops and you take in more information, you get a little bit more mature, you realize things and you understand that maybe things aren't right, and maybe you do need to go back on what you said. And I certainly think I'm going to have a very long, dragged out answer for you, John. But now my mind is gradually changing. I see that Lacazette is playing in a system under Arteta that is important, that it needs someone that can hold the ball up and play the passes like Lacazette did to Bellerin on the right-hand side for our first goal. It needs a striker that can drop in, that can become part of the midfield, become a number 10 effectively, and do that job. And I think that Lacazette has done that really well in recent games. And once his confidence is up, his finishing will get much, much better too. We know that he can finish really well. And for me, I was wrong 100% about Lacazette and wanted him to move on. I was so wrong on that. There's nothing to apologise for. When you make a judgment or an opinion, you have to apologise for being wrong in that sense. But yeah, I would be more than happy for us to maintain these two amazing record signings that we've kept at the club into next season, and really sort of focus on the improvement of our side into the midfield and into the defence. John G, one of our members, says he's using Laka like Firmino. Yeah, it's a really good point. And a lot of people have criticised the lack of goals from Firmino this season, but it doesn't matter. They've won the league because the goals came from wide positions with Salah and with Mane. And Aubameyang and Pepe can start to become those goal-scoring players with Lacazette through the middle. Yoni says, which place do we need to improve next year? Centre midfield has to be key. I think that the long-term goal is that Arsenal cannot be seen as a team that plays with a back 3 or 5 or whatever you want to call it. Arsenal need to maintain a system where we can play as a solid back 4. It gives you a lot more creativity and freedom, and it gives you support with the midfield, helping out the attack, giving you that extra midfielder. And yet the fullbacks can still be attacking. The best teams in the world do not play with a back 3. The most successful teams in the world across, there will be anomalies, I understand that, but you look at your Man Cities, you look at your Liverpool in the Premier League this season, even Chelsea, they play with a back 4. We've seen Chelsea win the league with a back 3, but what's happened since then? The teams that have taken over and have won the division have done it with a back 4. And so therefore it is important that the long-term vision for this club is to not sacrifice our attacking capabilities with how much quality we've got up there by going and reverting to a back 3. The long-term vision must be for a back 4, 100%. So that's where I'm at with that. Gooners Armory says, Tom, that's why we love you, because you practice humility. Yeah, publicly. You should play me in a game of FIFA. I don't show too much humility on that, mate. I can be ruthless when I need to. Akene says, Tom, it is okay, raise one's hand when a player changes. Yeah, 100%. I think you need to be open when these people change. Juventus, Kitchener says, Juventus is a really, really good example of one of those anomalies that I was talking about. I think when you have a generation of players like Chiellini, Bonucci, Barzagli, and Buffon at the back, then especially in a very, very tactical league like Serie A, where Italy is known for its defensive solidity and the amazing players that they've had come through the ranks with that nation, is that it's just always worked for Juve. But when you look at them sort of competitively in Europe, when it's come down to it, they've been beaten by sides like Real Madrid in the last Champions League final that I believe they were in, playing in a back 4. And it might work in a league like Serie A, and it might work because you've got these amazing players. But ultimately, teams that are better with a system playing in a back four will outscore you, will beat you. And that's what you've seen with Real Madrid do against Juventus. And so that's why I think that it may work in Serie A, but ultimately in a big stage, in the Premier League, in La Liga, even in Liga with PSG and Lyon that aren't playing those systems, that you will see teams creatively create so much more not playing with that defensive style. Now, that's not to say that Arsenal couldn't, in certain games, go back and change their back line to a back three when they're playing against a side that are superior to them in terms of like how good they are, their form and what they're doing. And I don't know if you saw this, but it was an amazing tweet from Rafa Honigstein, who's an amazing journalist. Go check him out. He's been on the channel. We've interviewed him. He's an amazing German-based journalist. And, well, he's English-based, but he's German, of course, and he looks at German football in loads of detail. But a Spurs fan put out a tweet saying that why he didn't understand why Jose Mourinho's tactics of parking the bus get so heavily criticised when we've seen Arsenal do it. And Rafa Honigstein replied to the tweet basically saying the difference is that Arsenal were doing it against Manchester City, whereas Spurs did it against Bournemouth. And that's the difference. It's about the timing of when you should do it. But Kitchener, a really, really good example of where a back three can work in the long term, especially domestically, but across the European stage. Maybe that's one of the biggest reasons why they've not been able to currently to do it. So there you go. Zaid, sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, mate. He says, everyone is saying the influence of Pep in Arteta. I firmly believe he has a huge influence by Wenger, Pochettino, and Moyes. That's really interesting. Obviously, I don't know how much he would have been influenced by Poch and Moyes. Definitely so by Wenger. A lot of people just look at David Moyes and think it's David Moyes. But if you think back to how good David Moyes was when he was with Everton, he went away to Manchester United. It didn't work. He wasn't putting. I mean, the guy that's going to follow Sir Alex Ferguson, it's the worst job in the world, isn't it? So, yeah, I think that there's definitely influences more than just from Pep. I don't know how much in terms of Poch and Moyes, but certainly there will be more than just Pep in there. But ultimately, I'm loving the fact that we're not just seeing some influences of Pep Guardiola, but also we're seeing Arteta sort of begin developing his own philosophy and his own style. And I think that's really important. Ray Anderson says, Tom, I love your show. Thank you for the support, mate. Really appreciate it. Kitchener, point well taken. There you go, mate. Genuinely love debating with some of the stuff you guys put on here. So if you want to get involved with more debates, tweet us at the Gooner Talk TV. Come check us out. We always have love debate. We have love debates. Love debates. Maybe when I'm watching Love Island. But other than that, we love having debates over there. It's some really, really good stuff. Omar says, do you think Europa League football next season would hinder us? Possibly, like it did this year. Squad depth is Arsenal's biggest problem. We've got an amazing sort of front, sort of first team. Amazing maybe is hyperbolic, but I still think it's a very, very good first team squad. But ultimately, when you look at the depth, when players get injured, then we have an issue. So possibly, Omar. It's definitely a decent shout. Calvin says, hi, Tom. Do you think Leno walks straight into the first team after what we've seen from Emi? Good question. I think that if you were to say that Leno is fit tomorrow, who plays against Aston Villa, it's Martinez. Who plays against Watford, it's Martinez. Who plays against Man United or Chelsea in the final, it's Martinez. And Leno doesn't get back in. It's as simple as that for me. The next question would be is if someone comes in with a decent bid for either goalkeeper, do you take it? It would depend on the fee. It would depend on the club that's coming in for him. And it would depend on how they feel about their situation at the club and how Arteta wants. Maybe it's great to have two goalkeepers at the club. But if Arsenal are in a financial situation where we do need funds to reinvest, and Arsenal could go out and sign either an up-and-coming young goalkeeper that's got a lot of potential like an Omlin at Basel, or you go down the other route and sign a 30-plus goalkeeper that's notoriously second string but can put in some really good performances, then you can go down that route. And then you take the money from one of your two keepers and you reinvest it into another area of the pitch that needs work. So there's two options there. I'd love to know what you guys think on that. Would you sell one of them to reinvest in other areas of the pitch and then sign a lesser quality goalkeeper that's either a young guy or an older guy to back up Emi Martinez? Or would you do the opposite? What one would you go for? I'm really genuinely interested to see what you think. Don One says, Italian football is not dynamic enough. It's pretty one-dimensional. I don't know about that. What I would suggest is if you go and have a watch of Atalanta this season, an amazing squad right now with Gomez and Zapata, Ilicic. I love Castagna, who's playing in a multitude of positions at the moment. He's Belgian international. There's amazing stuff going on at Atalanta. Really genuinely go check out. They're not one-dimensional at all. They've got an amazingly diverse squad. So go check out some Italian football, some really, really good stuff. I'm La Liga. I'm a La Liga man, but you got to go check out other football. Pramod says Martinez is more commanding in the box. I love the way he claims the balls from corners and crosses. It really sort of gives the defence that confidence. I don't know about Leno. I don't know if I've just sort of forgotten what he's done commanding-wise, but you should go tweet Drew at FM Lera. He knows his stuff on goalkeepers, especially Leno, and what he was like at Leverkusen. And he talks about how Leno struggles to sort of command his backline, whereas Martinez clearly has a better commanding essence about his game and the way he talks about players. So for me, Martinez is certainly coming out on top right now. Really, really good. Dial Square One says, Tom, would you keep Ainsley Maitland-Niles? Would I keep Mainsley? Is Mainsley? Come on, let's get Mainsley in the chat. Let's see those hashtag Mainsleys come up. I think I would right now. I think that he's shown that he can play in so many positions for us in the squad. And I think that it would take a decent-sized bid for me to change my mind on that. It depends how much the bid was from another club. I'm not sure where he would go. He clearly wants to play more often, and you can't blame a guy that's going into his mid-20s, I believe, although he might be deceptively young because he burst onto the scene at such a young age. But for me, it would take a decent bid to get him out because Arsenal need strength in depth, and ultimately he is one of the best players to give us that. So, we have to think about that. Yes, the hashtag Mainsleys are coming out. Love there. Oh, no, yes, Mings on the mic has changed his name. I can show you. For those that don't know, I will not repeat what Mings on the mic used to be called, but it was a name which I couldn't use. But now I can. Love that name. I hope we signed. I really like Tyrone Mings, actually. I think he's made a couple of errors for Aston Villa. But he'd be a good addition to the squad, I think, especially bringing in someone young, homegrown, definitely, mate. So, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that statement, 100% of your change in name. Guna123 says, would you take a swap of Guendouzi for Coutinho? And if Guendouzi doesn't want to apologise and get on board with Arteta's plan? This is a good question because if you follow us on Twitter, at the Goon Talk TV, I tweeted out when Z, which I know that you all follow, the Z account, the Z account, whatever you want to call it, who tweets out all of the transfer stuff, be it real or not, who knows. But the information that came out about concrete talks between Arsenal and Barcelona was interesting. I think that Guendouzi is one of our most valuable assets in terms of a financial sort of area of the squad that could make us a decent size fee. And so therefore, swapping him for a Coutinho who has not been the player that we saw at Liverpool, that struggled at Barcelona, that did a little bit better at Bayern Munich. But ultimately, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it at all. I think it'd be a big risk. I think if you were to make 30 to 40 million pounds, which I'm not sure if Coutinho is worth, especially with the wages that he would command, I genuinely don't think. And also, you've got to consider the position that Coutinho plays, which is either a left wing or as an attacking midfielder in a number 10 role. Arsenal don't look like they want to play with a number 10. Arsenal look like they want to play with a more combative midfield with number 8s and 6 and possibly even a 4. And left wing, we've got Aubameyang there. We've got Martinelli coming through. We've got Saka that can play there. And you've ultimately got to think, does Coutinho get into this team right now? And I'm not sure Coutinho does. Maybe if you move Aubameyang to striker and take out Lacazette. But I like Aubameyang in the left wing position at the moment. I'm liking what he's doing. So for me, I think that's a decent enough argument to say, no, I don't think that Coutinho would be the right player. If he comes in, I'd support him 100%, and I hope that he succeeds. But I just think that maybe we could put Guendouzi's worth elsewhere, if that makes sense. Ig says, by the way, Ig, please tell me if you'd rather I pronounce your name differently or spell it out phonetically. Oh, you're always in the chat, and I genuinely appreciate your support, and I'd love to be calling you by your proper name. I just don't want to get it wrong. So yeah, but Ig says, what about trying to bring the wage bill down? Coutinho would increase our wage bill. Exactly, 100%. Really, really good point. Turn and Face says Coutinho used to play on the left of a midfield three for Liverpool. He did, but he used to. If you look what he's done at Barcelona or Bayern Munich, he hasn't played that position. Why would you want to invest all that money in someone that's not played a role for that long? For me, it doesn't make sense to do that. That's just my view of it personally. Alfred Joku says Rabiot is a good shout. His value is around £23 million. I genuinely haven't seen too much of him this season at Juventus. I don't know how he's done. I would be interested in doing a little bit more research into it. I'm not going to be someone that just comes on and piles on what I think of a player when I've not really seen him. But if you want to get some information on Rabiot, there's one man that you should tweet, and that's at RichHall80. He's come on the show a few times for our tactical breakdown shows. He writes for Football Italia. He's writing in the Modern Footballer magazine, which is a magazine coming out very soon at the end of the month, and he's already had a first issue out. People know that I'm involved with that. I'm writing a piece on William Saliba that I'm really excited about, and a piece on Martin Odegaard as well. And he's fantastic with Italian stuff. So if you want to get some Italian information, at RichHall80, go tweet him, go find out what he thinks. Ray Anderson says, before yesterday's match, the midfielders has been scoring more. Yeah, it's good that we need goals from other areas of the pitch. We do. Xhaka obviously scored in the game against Norwich. Danny Ceballos scored against Sheffield United. We need goals from other areas of the pitch. It's really important that we get that. And does Rabiot provide that? Maybe, maybe not. Thibaut Pesca also points out that Rabiot is another Guendouzi in terms of his attitude. His attitude has come into question when he was at PSG. And do we want that type of character at the club? Maybe, maybe not. I'm really not sure about that one. Tax says, what about Kai Havertz? I haven't heard much about him. I think he'd suit us more than Coutinho. Yes, I'd bite your arm off for Kai Havertz, Tax. No problem at all. The issue is that he's going to be worth about £90 million plus. And I can't see Arsenal really forking out £90 million plus. So that's the problem with Kai Havertz, isn't it? Vinny Eagle says, does a swap of Guendouzi for Ceballos make more sense? No, because I think Guendouzi is arguably worth more than Ceballos is in terms of what Real Madrid want for him. Supposedly Real Madrid want between 20 to 25 million for Ceballos, which is, in my opinion, an absolute steal. And if Arsenal do not sign Ceballos in the full term, then there should be massive questions being asked of our recruitment team and of our board. Arteta clearly wants him, so there can be no criticism of the Spaniard, really, if he's come out and we don't sign Ceballos, because he's clearly come out and said that he wants him at the club full term. He wants him to be in this squad. So if Ceballos does not sign, questions should be asked of our recruitment side, the financial side, and the board, because this guy should be being brought in for a full term. As simple as that for me, as simple as that. And so therefore, back to the Guendouzi sort of things, Vinny, I just don't think that the fee that you would get for Guendouzi would... I mean, if it was Ceballos plus some money, then yeah. But I think that you could get a bit more than the worth that Real Madrid have put on him. Emil Smith-Rowe, great show, says Dar Square 1. Has someone shouted out Emil Smith-Rowe and I've missed it? Let me scroll up. Socially Outcasted says, question, Tom, Emil Smith-Rowe to come back and Willock on loan. I would like to see both of them in the squad next season. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first one being that, of course, 5 substitutes at the moment is being kept. And so squad depth, as I've already mentioned, needs to be as a priority. And one of the biggest problems we look at right now is when Arsenal's squad when the lineup is posted by the Arsenal website, I look at the substitutes and I see Nelson and I see Saka. And of course, I know that Nketiah is currently suspended. But I look at Nelson and I look at Saka and I look at Nketiah if he was there, and I'm thinking, well, if you look at Manchester City's squad and you look at the subs that they can bring on, when they can bring on Rodri and Foden and Fernandinho for Gundogan and other players in their team. And then you look at Spurs in the North London derby being able to bring on Lamela and being able to bring on Steven Bergwijn and whatever your opinions are on those players. The point is that it's really, really important that Arsenal adds squad depth. And so, yes, it'd be great to send players out on loan and give them experience, but I don't think that Emil Smith-Rowe and Willock are the types of players that you need to do that with now. So if they can stay fit, as Laurie Nix points out, then they definitely should be in the squad. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from ESR. I think that he's been great. I mean, he's like AMN. We need to come up with Emil Smith-Rowe's TGT nickname. That needs to happen. So if you've got any suggestions, make sure you throw them into the chat. Ryan Kirkpatrick, who is a long-time listener to the show, is of course a Liverpool fan, and we congratulated him when they won the league. He's respectful, so be respectful to him. Ryan says, congrats on the great week. Glad you finally got on some great momentum under Arteta. Can't remember the first team you played this week, mine. See, this is the thing about Ryan. He could take it on the chin when we get one over Liverpool. I mean, you've won the league, mate. So congratulations to you. I hope you enjoy celebrating that. But thank you for your congratulations on the FA Cup. Hopefully we can put in performance against a couple of your biggest rivals as well, mate. So good stuff. Hyperfrantic says, do you think we have any chance of keeping Balogun? I would say that we have about a 10% chance of him staying. From what he said, from what he wants first team football, and you can't blame him for that. And I don't think he's going to get it at Arsenal at this stage, even in the cup competitions, because you can look at someone like Nketiah, you look at someone like Tyrese, John Jules. These guys are going to probably be ahead of him in the pecking order. So for me, I'm just not sure. Oh, we're getting some suggestions for nicknames for Smith. Just Smithy or ESR. See, I don't like ESR the same way I don't like AMN. I don't really like using, which is, I know, hypocritical because we're TGT, but you know what I mean. Smithy is I like Smithy. Does remind me of James Corden a bit though, which isn't as good. Getting some good ones. Vinny Eagle says Balogun ain't getting near our first team, and we are much better off selling him. If we can get a good fee for him, I mean, we sold Christian Bielik, who hadn't kicked a ball for the club in the first team, for 10 million quid. So who's to say that we can't get a decent fee for Balogun? It just makes absolutely no sense why we couldn't get a decent fee for him. That's where I'm going to wrap things up today. 45 minutes worth of me, you lucky people. I'm, of course, joking. You silly people sitting here watching me for 45 minutes. But thank you ever so much, people. I will just click on Don 1. What's your thoughts on Thomas Partey? I'll tell you what my thoughts are. My thoughts are is that you should go onto our channel. You should scroll down the videos. I did a little interview with Graham Hunter, amazing La Liga and Spanish-based journalist. Go listen to that interview. It's amazing, amazing listen. All about Thomas Partey. We've also done a tactical breakdown back in January with John Driscoll, who is the La Liga Weekly podcast host, who said that we had absolutely no chance of signing him. But it's interesting to get his thoughts on the player still. So make sure you go check out the content on that. We will be back at 8:30 this evening, UK time. I have warned you. There is your warning. Don't come at me saying you never give us enough warning. I will try and also schedule it as well, because I've done that for the first time today, and apparently that means it's easy for you guys to spot it. So I will make sure I do that too. Amazing win yesterday. Amazing show. You guys in the chat box have been absolutely fantastic as always. I say this every single show, and I'm not milking it, because ultimately it's true, is that you provide in-depth, really good comments, well thought out. There's barely any trolling, which I love. When we put out tweets on the Twitter account, you support us. And I love every single one of you for helping and supporting the channel. Our members as well. Thank you so much for your continued support. I say this every show now because I'm just so excited, but I'm really buzzing about what I'm going to be able to bring to you ahead of the FA Cup final. I said I was going to do it at the end of the season, but seeing as we got into the FA Cup final, I'm going to reveal to you the new logo. I'm going to reveal to you the new members logos as well. There is I'm going to reveal this now. There is a website coming as well, which I'm really excited about, which is going to have articles, and we're going to be looking for some writers. But I'm going to talk to you guys more about that, obviously, when it comes to pass, because there's still a lot of stuff to sort out. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting going with all that stuff. You can follow us on Twitter at The Good and Talk TV. If you're having any issues with the membership, like I saw a couple of you were, you can send us a DM on Twitter or on Instagram. We don't really use the Instagram. Maybe that's me just being a bit lazy. I just haven't really been able to get using it. But it's The Gooner Talk. We do sometimes post some stuff over there. If you think I should be posting more, then tell me, and I will. But other than that, it's been a real pleasure to speak to every single one of you. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.